Welcome to the Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary. This is your host, ScottyB. We are back this week, folks. We have been talking with Melbourne Superman. Last week, we covered episode 4. We talked about A New Hope. We talked about the prequels. This week, we want to spend more time talking about the 2 episodes of the first trilogy that we have not yet covered. And we want to talk more about the new episodes 7, 8, and 9. So I am going to, I'm going to shamelessly allow some plugs here. If you like, sir, Melbourne Superman, Andrew, if you have a few plugs again that you would like to just give at the beginning of the episode, and we will dig right into something that is just one of my favorite things to talk about in the second part. Love Star Wars, love the books, love the movies. And yes, where can we find you, sir, and how can we support you?
Sure. So, as always, everybody, you can find me at Melbourne Superman on Instagram, Melbourne Superman on Vero, Melb Superman on Twitter, and of course, search my YouTube channel, Melbourne Superman, where you can just find some of the videos that I do on reactions, reviews, workout stuff, unboxings, pretty much you name it, I do it. There's no one theme to the channel. If you're interested in life coaching or personal training, you can, of course, get in touch with me or Team Accountable through the Team Accountable Instagram or my Melbourne Superman Instagram, the best places to reach me. But yeah, let's we don't need to spend too much time on that. I'm anxious to get back into it. I know we went into some serious tangents last time, which is probably why we didn't get through all of what we wanted to. But I feel like with Star Wars, I think, like you said last week, that's kind of like the beauty of Star Wars, especially with us talking about it, is it's so easy to talk about it nonstop, going on tangents. I feel like I'm going on right now, so I'm going to just stop talking and let you take over.
I was actually going to tangent on a tangent because you mentioned unboxings, and I know that you did an unboxing on your YouTube channel for Turbo Man, which I thought was just amazing. I'm like, oh, he knows about Jingle All the Way. It's like one of my favorite Christmas movies. I know we're getting kind of close to the holiday season, so I just wanted to throw that out there, and I hope that everybody does go to your channel because it is amazing, and you have so many videos, so many good videos. You've got 8 months of videos, at least a year of videos on there. Fantastic. Reviews and just a variety of content and lots of Superman. I know that's not really the topic this week. We're going to be talking about Star Wars, and we are going to be talking first about my favorite episode of all the episodes, episode 5, which is Empire Strikes Back. It's the least tragic of all of the episodes. I've mentioned that several times. No one dies.
I have to. I was watching it. I went through all the movies a couple months ago, and I was watching it. And there are a couple of people that perish in Empire Strikes Back, and I actually filmed it. They're not main characters, of course, but there are featured deaths, and I just wanted to. I filmed them to specifically send to you, but I was like, oh.
Oh, I need to see that because, yes, that's. I need to be debunked a little bit on this, but I mean, you have some epic tragedies in all of the episodes. You know, like episode 1, Qui-Gon Jinn dies. Episode 2, I'm gonna have to think about that one.
Shmi Skywalker.
That's right, Shmi Skywalker dies. Episode 3 is Padme, and like everybody, it's like Rogue One, basically. Like just everybody gets dead. 4 is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then you get to 5, and 5 doesn't really like. There's nobody main that really like fights it in that one. So that's why it's like, well, it's played off as such a space opera and such a tragedy because he finds out, right? Like he finds out all of this bad stuff. It's kind of like when you find out that there's a group that's talking about you behind your back in cosplay, and you're very upset and you don't know what to do, and you're unfollowing a bunch of people and you're like, you're not my friend anymore, he kind of throws a bit of a tantrum. He loses his hand, so understandably he's a bit upset.
Because as I was a kid, Return of the Jedi was always my favorite. I think solely because I think the green lightsaber is my favorite. Therefore the whole movie was my favorite. But growing up, I developed such a much deeper appreciation for Empire because I think for me, it was probably one of the best written of them. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you know, if you don't, I think this was one of the only ones that was not actually written or directed by George Lucas, or both. I can't remember.
I don't know.
Something, he wasn't involved in something, I think, and which is interesting. But I love Empire. It takes us, of course, to just because really, A New Hope. We kind of, for the most part, other than Tatooine, we spend most of the time on just the desert
Hmm.
or on a ship. Whereas in Empire, we see so many more. We see a snow planet. We of course see Dagobah. We see a city in the clouds. We see a lot more variety in Empire Strikes Back, and a lot
Yes.
more character development. Um, we see some incest, which is weird. We don't.
Before I get too far down that down that path, the the chemistry
Mm,
is so good in
yeah.
Empire, and I love the City in the Clouds. I love Bespin, the
Mm,
gas mining colony. You learn a little bit about Lando, but really it doesn't. I don't think they've really given him enough, even with him being in the Han Solo movie.
yeah.
I just don't feel like they've really got him nailed down yet. Like
Do you
there's
know?
a lot in the books about
Jumping
Lando.
ahead in episode eight, Last Jedi. When they visited that casino planet, and there was I can't remember now, the hacker or whatever they needed to find, the guy that they needed to find who was going to help them because he had a particular set of skills,
Did it feel
whatever,
like the Matrix? I thought that that whole thing felt like the Matrix
a little bit.
when they go in there. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I thought it was going to be Lando. I really did, and I was really excited because I mean, of course, we did see him, but
Hmm.
you're right. I think Lando is one of those characters. Billy D. Williams just played him really. I think he's just a phenomenal actor, and he was just like you. You wanted to see more of him just because he's got this charisma, kind of like Harrison Ford. Um, and it's funny, Mark Hamill. He has obviously screen presence. He has charisma, but more so, less so than say Harrison Ford. It's different. So
Hmm.
when I see Mark Hamill on screen, I don't need to see more of him. Whereas Harrison Ford comes on or Billy D. Williams comes on, you pay attention. You're like, what's this guy going to say? I want to see more of what he's going to say. Um, so yeah, it was just a
Yes,
shame not to give
He
him more.
does have a really just smooth way of delivering
Mm,
everything he delivers. Like, and
it's
he
like
just kind
glass.
of. It is. It's just really well done, really well played.
There's
How he
that
deals.
meme that says if you could have anybody besides um, uh, like Morgan Freeman narrate your life, who would it be? And I'm always like Billy D.
Billy D.
Williams, dude,
Williams.
hands down.
He plays so well off of like the things that are going on,
Mm,
how he has to make the tough choices, and
yeah.
there's a lot of tough choices that are made in Empire, I think, over any of the other movies.
Mm,
Again, this is all just my opinion, but you have a double cross. He doesn't want to double cross them, but he kind of has to. With Londo, he has to like hand him over
yep.
because like Vader's gonna do some really bad things to the whole planet if he doesn't. You have the choice that Han makes to be encased in carbonite. You have the choices that are being made. Like even when he's like rescuing, he makes the choice to go out and rescue Luke,
Yep.
to figure out what's going on. Like just tough choices, and then like kind of the like I'm okay that you're okay with Leia. Like it's all okay. Like this is let's not be awkward about what's
Mm.
going on, even though this is actually the most awkward thing. We just don't know it yet.
Which
Um,
is not.
like it's I mean thank goodness that that Luke went to Dagobah. you
Mm.
know that it kind of saves
Yeah.
a lot of really embarrassing family talk later in later in life. It's not something that you want to be like, kids, funny story about your aunt. Like, oh boy. um,
Yikes.
and how do you explain this to Mara Jade, later in your life, that hey, oh yeah, but that's my sister. Yeah, we
Also, my first kiss.
yeah, we had a thing before we
Oh
knew.
man,
Like,
it was very Shakespearean.
it was, yeah, well, it's she was on a different planet. We were separated at birth.
Doesn't really
you,
count.
you would think the technology would have come into play a little bit sooner, but it didn't. Like maybe
Mm.
like the ship could have like clued him in and like, hey, your DNA is the same or something like that. But no, nothing.
Nope.
No
Nope.
help from the Force either. Like for all of the insight that he has.
I know it's the Force. Like you can sense everything until you actually need to sense something, and then the Force just goes away. It's like, nah, you're on your own, kid.
And really, I feel like maybe light Jedi are a bit of practical jokers. Like they have kind of a like they're not dark side, but they have a dark sense of humor.
Mm.
Like send it, let's let's send this guy to this. Let's just send him to this planet. Let's have him think that this girl's into him, and it's actually his sister.
And,
You know, like
it's
this.
I'm not. We're not going to tell you because Obi-Wan knows. We're not going to tell you that this is your sister, ever. They never actually do. Oh no, Yoda kind of does,
He kind of drops
but
it
he doesn't
on his
say.
deathbed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
jumping ahead
Um,
again, but yeah,
it's but I love like the whole like him training to be a Jedi. I think
yeah.
they play that out so well. Some of it
I
does feel a little bit like cosplay, just because like you have to work so hard to get to not being a Jedi quite yet. Like
yeah.
it takes so
I
much time and energy.
I can't watch that training sequence anymore without thinking of the. Do you ever watch the Yoda Seagulls thing on YouTube?
Oh yes, yes.
I can't anymore. Again, it's kind of like Luke raising the X-wing, right? Like he just doesn't have the confidence in himself, even though he's worked so hard to do this thing. He just doesn't see that he can do it, and
Mhm.
he just kind of gives up because it does get hard once you're working that hard at something. Like what I was talking about before, it's like you work so hard, so hard, so hard, and then it just becomes about numbers, 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 and you're just not seeing the growth that you want to see. The growth becomes that X-wing. It's like it's just there, but it's not quite there. And that's the thing, people, like it's never going to be enough until you come to terms with the fact that you can just do this thing and have fun with it. Because once you get to 10,000 followers, you're going to want 15. Once you get to 15, you're going to want to get 20. Once you get to 20, you're going to want to beat that big cosplay. You're going to want to beat Liz Wonder, or you're going to want to beat Alice and
Allison.
Tabitha.
Mhm.
Yeah. Exactly where I'm going. It's like years in the Force. It's never going to be enough. So raise those
40,
X-wings,
40
man.
followers will be fine. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. These are not the followers you're looking for.
Yeah, these are the randos.
Yeah,
Randos.
exactly.
Calrissians, yes.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to say. I did want to ask you a question because there's one scene that has always kind of confused me just a little bit in Empire, and maybe you can help me now that we're many years into the future, and I'm still a little bit confused about the scene when he goes down where Yoda tells him not to go. He says the only thing you're gonna find down there, like you're not gonna find anything good down there. Like he
Mm-hmm.
goes down to the dark side or whatever, and he sees he confronts Vader in like the sequence,
Mm-hmm.
and he like chops Vader's head off, and then inside the helmet is him. It's his face,
Mm-hmm.
and this is like a really deep reflection into inner conflict. And I'm really not sure if I've ever read that scene correctly. I wondered if you might have any thoughts about that whole scene. I'm not even doing a very good job of explaining it, but I think you know what the part that I'm
Yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah.
about in Empire.
Well, I think that whole scene really that for me that whole scene starts when he says you won't need that, and he takes it anyway. So that right there, he's got that stubbornness in him. He's got that. If somebody's telling me that I can go in here peacefully, but I'm going to take this anyway, he's got that dark side in him because he right away makes a choice that okay, this guy, this master, he's telling me that I can go in there peacefully, but I'm going to take this weapon of war. Really, because that's what a lightsaber is. I don't care what the Jedi say, the Guardians of the Peace. You don't carry a lightsaber around unless you're willing to kill with it.
Or have some
And
really unfortunate accidents turning it on while it's looped to your belt.
ooh,
Like, I hope it has like a safety,
you would think,
or like you would think
or something
like a
like
a swipe code like a cell
yeah, like a
phone.
fingerprint or something. And then so he goes in and he sees Vader, and of course that's the inner struggle that we all face every day. We have and I constantly say this on my page. We all have choices, right? We have the choice to do good, and grammatically that's what I mean. Do good things. If you're a fan
Mhm.
of Boy Meets World, you understand that reference.
The good
Um,
deeds. Yes.
do good deeds, right? Do good things. Do good deeds. Be peaceful. And then the other choice you can choose to stir the pot. You can choose to do negative things. You can choose to be negative. And I think Luke, this like okay, if we go into prequels, Hayden Christensen is a very whiny kid, and he goes back and forth between doing right thing and just being a whiny, negative, spoiled, right? Luke does the same thing, but in a much more subtle way. Like,
Hmm.
really, there are moments where Luke is very whiny and very, negative, but
Almost
it's
constantly. Yes.
yeah, but he does it in a way that it's not like because you know he's not going to turn into this real evil character, so you put up with it. But
Yeah, there's some
he's got that.
lightheartedness to
Yeah.
him. Hmm.
Yeah, and you can empathize with him more. And so he's got that inner struggle. So right away though he's walked in there with this lightsaber ready for battle, does battle, and he sees himself and that's him so, all right. Well, if I'm not careful, because that's what Jedi training really essentially is. Aside from you using the fancy powers, is learning how to control your inner demons so that you don't turn to the dark side. That's in terms of Jedi. That's the worst thing you can do is you can go to the dark side, and so that's his inner struggle. And to me personally, I would have really been interested to have seen an alternate take as to what would have happened had he not taken his lightsaber in with him, because I think that I don't know that that's what I don't think that Yoda really controls what he sees in there, but I think
Hmm.
his mentality does, right? So if he didn't bring that lightsaber in there, I would be interested to see what he would have seen. But I think it's just as simply as the inner struggle and Yoda teaching him, you know, dark side, light side, man. You have two choices, which is an absolute, of course, but Jedi don't deal in absolute.
Well, and I think it's interesting that he never really tells him to fight Vader. He says he has to confront him,
Right.
and that is a very
Very
different
different.
dynamic. He doesn't say, yeah, lightsaber duels. That's the only way to solve problems in the
Obi
world of
Wan
Jedi.
does. Obi Wan says if you don't kill him, he's won.
Hmm.
But no, Yoda just says confront him, and I think you're right. I think that's a very different thing from fighting him.
So maybe if he wouldn't have gone in with the lightsaber, he would have realized. Maybe he would have put two and two together that Vader actually is not all bad.
Mm,
Like maybe he would have like kind of felt that.
yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's be interesting, or maybe he would have, like you would have like, congratulations, you're a Jedi. Would have happened a little bit earlier. Um, and like down the road they would have gone, and maybe all of this weird, this stuff. They could have ended it on Bespin. That
I
he
think
would
it.
have been like,
Yeah.
hey, guess what? You're not really a bad guy. You're actually my dad.
There's my
And
dad. Well, that's the other interesting. Well, I think to your point, I think there's not one way to look at that scene. I think you can take it any way you want, and you can just come up with so many different things as to what it means. I am would love to know because of course there's the famous story that you know nobody knew, even the actors on set, that Vader was going to be his father. Um,
oh yeah, that's true. Mhm.
so I'm
Very
wondering
well kept secret.
what, if anything, they told Mark Hamill that was going to be. I'm wondering if there was a moment where, obviously Mark Hamill doesn't know it's his father, so I'm the director saying, well, okay, when that helmet cracks open, it's going to be this. I wonder if it was still going to be himself.
Hmm.
Does that make sense? Like, if he's not your father or if he's not related to you, why bother using that specific image in the helmet?
Yeah. And then we get into Jedi. And Jedi, it really just like it undoes a lot of this. Like it's a rescue mission.
Mm,
And it's like the first two movies, like we got to undo things from the last movie, and then we got to have another epic space battle,
yeah.
and we're gonna rebuild the Death Star. Like there's so many like full circle things that are happening inside of Jedi. And it's really like, okay, we're going to tie up all the loose ends, and then we're going to add some really cute little plushy bears at the end. and, and it'll
Ewoks.
be great. The Ewoks being kind of the underdogs, the characters that you don't think are going to have like this huge influence and impact on the toppling of the empire, or
Yeah.
even that they're affected by it. When they 100% are affected by the emperor controlling the galaxy. They're oppressed. They have all sorts of struggles because of all this like construction and stuff that's going on over their
Mm.
planet. And you don't really get that feeling. Like they're just kind of like these woodland creatures, but that they're fairly sophisticated, and they're fairly like they know what's going on, you know, and
Yeah.
they're not too happy about it either. So, and they don't seem to trust people. Certainly nobody who wears white. But I do. I mean, I appreciate it. I like the Sarlacc monster and the whole Jabba the Hutt kind of like showing off his prize. Like he takes his Han with him everywhere he goes. Um, and that it's there's so many just fun things. It's a little bit more fun than the second movie.
And I think also that's probably one of the reasons why, as a kid, I enjoyed Jedi the most, because there was like a lot of, yeah, it was just a lot of fun. It wasn't as dramatic of a story. It was kind of like, I would liken it to, um, I don't even know. I don't know. Like a watered down version of what the first two movies were. It was still
Mm-hmm.
exciting. It's still great, and I'll still watch it and love it forever. But it doesn't, now that I'm older, it doesn't hit the mark like the other two did. It doesn't make you feel. I mean, there are some great moments. Don't get me wrong, but it just, I don't know. It's just it just feels like, to me, it's just there to end the story. And I feel like probably Return of the Jedi could have been a half hour shorter. I love every
So
moment of it because it's Star Wars, but I think logistically, story wise, it could have been a half hour shorter.
so it's basically the Eternals. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
It could have been a half an hour shorter.
It could have been a half
Uh,
hour shorter. I enjoyed the Eternals. I wouldn't give it a 5 out of 5, but I enjoyed it. Little tangent. But yeah. It could have been a
um,
half hour shorter.
yeah, I mean, yeah, they did kind of. It's almost like they try to do too much, and when movies do that, maybe the just well, yeah, I don't know. I guess Batman versus Superman had a little bit of that problem, more
Yeah,
than
I
the
think,
than the first Justice League movie, not the Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder's Justice League is a long movie,
yeah.
but I just feel like maybe Empire and Batman versus Superman have a little bit of things in common, just as far as like we could have stopped here, but we decided to put all of this here too.
Right.
Like there's
Right.
just so much going on. But you do get a lot of closure, and I think that's important. I don't feel like I got that in the first three episodes at all. I don't know if I really even got it in the final episode, like in episode 9. I don't know if I really feel a whole like
I don't think I got any closure in 9.
no.
I, I just kind of got, I think, much like the prequels, I think at the end of episode 9, I probably came away with more questions than answers. Man, I don't know if that's
Yeah,
the right
yeah,
thing
I
to say,
think
but
I
maybe,
think there
yeah.
were. I mean, not to completely skip over Return of the Jedi. I also don't know if I would have even called it Return of the Jedi
No,
because he really doesn't. He's kind of already there.
yeah. Well, the only reason that they called it that, because eventually, of course, they were originally going to call it Revenge of the Jedi, but then they
Revenge of the
realized, well,
Jedi.
revenge isn't really something the Jedi do. Um, but even then, there wasn't much of a revenge, really. I mean, I guess, I don't know. Or you can look at it from Anakin's perspective, different point of view, and the Return of the Jedi is the return of the good man that was Anakin Skywalker when he destroyed the Emperor. Boom, done.
That works.
I like it.
That works, and I think that also has a lot of finality to it. The
Yeah.
Emperor gets killed for the first time, which you don't. He's such a like he's the overarching menace to all of
It's
all
sad.
9 of these movies.
You can actually say he gets killed for the first time, and it's actually not the last time.
Well, and this isn't even going into the part where Luke goes crazy and kills all of his clones because they kind of don't even mention that. I was really hoping that I mean, you get a taste of that Luke Skywalker Mandalorian,
Yes.
the Luke that is just after Jedi.
Yeah.
and he goes on his like mission to annihilate the emperor and just goes crazy, and
Mm.
he's so OP in the stuff that happens afterwards. I mean, there's two parts that they haven't really gotten to yet. There's Shadows of the Empire, which happens between A New Hope, or happens between episode 5 and episode 6. And then there's like the stuff that happens right afterwards, and I'm probably getting into the Heir to the Empire, the Zahn trilogy kind of things, and
Mm.
just after that, like right before Jedi Academy, and that's the Luke Skywalker that's a bit scary. Like
Yeah.
he's a scary dude, but he's so awesome. Just goes crazy, but you don't get that feel when you wander from episode 6 to episode 7.
Mm.
And episode 7, you may disagree with me here, but I felt like it was just the coolest thing. It was such a um, even more anticipated for me than episode 1 to see episode 7 and really just focus on it
I
and
agree.
enjoy the heck out of it.
Yeah.
I loved episode 7.
I loved episode 7. I don't that people say it's the same thing as episode 4. It's like, do you know what? So what? All so what? Um, I loved the Force Awakens. I think it was the best out of the three. Um, I really enjoyed it. And the
Yeah,
anticipation for that for me, yeah, it was definitely. Um, yeah, I think it was probably greater than episode 1. Episode 1, yes.
yeah, I
Yeah.
liked the direction, all the things they did, bringing back Han Solo and Chewie. There's so many just fun moments,
It
and
was a fan. I feel like a
it's just a
big
very
fan service movie, and you know
mhm.
what? That's fine.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. Um, I think that I don't think we're going to give the first three the enough like airtime in this episode, but there's so much stuff going on. I think they did a really good job with Sneed in is it Sneed? Sneed, the Dark Jedi kind of guy in the first
Yeah.
movie.
Um,
I've only watched these a couple of times, and it's
Snoke.
still been on Snook. Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, YouTube, screwing up names.
You're
Um,
gonna get a lot of angry emails.
but I thought they did a really good job, kind of like overshadowing him as like the main bad guy, but then like just went in a really weird direction with the whole thing in the second movie. Like
What was it
it
was
just
like the
didn't
two directors of the first and the second movie just made two different movies completely. Like it's
very
almost
much
as if
so.
yeah, like the first they just didn't complement each other at all. Like at all.
No, and much like the prequels, I feel like the sequels at a certain point had that same sort of feeling of what is this really about? Like
Mm,
what are we trying to do?
yeah.
It's like 6 hours of okay, and where are we going with all of this? But it's really cool. Like Luke comes back. He makes the big like she finds him at the end of the first movie, and it's like the coolest scene ever. And you think like
Yeah.
he's gonna like do stuff, like he's gonna be like, hmm, they're looking for him, like he's being sought out, and he's like Obi-Wan Kenobi. They need his help, and he just like chucks the lightsaber. He's like,
Yeah.
screw this. I don't do this anymore.
Yeah. I laughed at that, but at the same time I was like, wow, it's like it doesn't it kind of and I've never been the guy that says um, you've just destroyed the character or this movie will ruin that movie. I've never been that guy, but like some of the choices that and I know again famously Mark Hamill came out and said this is not the direction that he would have liked to have seen Luke Skywalker go, but there are so many choices that were made with Luke Skywalker that kind of do I think destroy his growth. Not destroy, but stuns. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they give him like the complete control over the force and just how powerful he is.
Mm,
I don't know if everybody understands that
mm,
when they see him in that in his battle scene where he kind of just walks onto the he just walks in and he's like,
yeah.
okay, I'm just gonna take out, like you're thinking, like I was really thinking like, oh, he is gonna take out these walkers, he's just gonna take them out,
Yeah.
and they like annihilate him, and he's like, no problem.
That's
And
I love that scene. I'm not gonna
it's
lie.
it's just so like, and you're like, oh, this is the Luke I've been waiting for. He's just completely badass.
My
He's
theater,
awesome.
akin to when Captain America picked up Mjolnir, the theater like applauded when Luke Skywalker went. It's so
Yes.
great.
Just awesome moments. But that I think people don't realize that the fact that he can astral project himself across the galaxy is like kind of like a big deal.
That's
Um,
pretty big.
it's fairly impossible to think of just like how like focused you'd have to be to do anything like this, or just like how impossible this whole setup is.
Mm,
And it takes a lot out of him. And that's why he kind of just like fades into nothing, because this is
yeah.
like a big, he's like, okay, well, I'm gonna like get on my forced cell phone and like 3D image myself into this fight scene, with this brat that I was training before. And um, just such a great way to kind of, well, I don't know if it's the best way to write off into the sunset for the character, but
I think
um,
it's as ways go. I disagree with the people who say it was kind of like a lackluster way. I think it was pretty. I like. I don't know if it was the best, but I think it was a pretty decent way.
I think I was also just left going, okay, how screwed are they now? Like
Mm,
Luke's gone, and we're kind of putting all of our marbles in the Ray basket now, and I'm not sure. I'm like, she's like, I think her friends are helping her a lot right
yeah.
now, and I just wasn't sure where they really wanted to go with that, or like the whole thing between her and Ben, where he's kind of like, he kind of keeps trying to like get her to be with him, but not to be a, like, he doesn't really seem to care that she would be a dark Jedi or not.
Mm,
He's like, no, we're just gonna rule the universe together.
exactly. Exactly.
uh, who get rid of this whole good guy bad guy thing.
Let's just do it.
And that seemed a bit like, oh, I feel like that is kind of relating to the generation. Like this
Yeah.
generation's kind of like, again, this is where we get the blurred line,
Yeah.
between, like good side, bad side. You know what? Um, how about just domination? Like, who
Exactly. And
cares?
that's it's kind of like that. There's two types, right? There's the who cares, and then there's the we care too much, so therefore we're going to get rid of, right? Neither one are good, you know. You've got to have something in the middle where, like for Star Wars, you've built this entire universe on good and evil, dark side, light side. That's got to matter. In our everyday standard, we've built where we are now on a history that good, bad, indifferent, love it, leave it, whatever, you can't get rid of it. If you get rid of it, you're doomed to repeat it. So you've got to remember the things that need remembering and sort of stay the course if you want, like if you want Star Wars to work, you've got to use the basic formula that has made it work. If you want life to continue, you've got to learn from your mistakes and create a formula that helps you continue to be better and better and better. Like you can't just cancel something or pretend like it didn't happen, because that almost makes it worse.
Mhm.
You can't just make it up as you go. You've got to learn where you've come from.
Yes, yes, you do. I don't. I mean, I do have a question for you. It's actually like more of a cosplay related thing to Star Wars. Um, because it's become so ingrained in all the fandoms, like
Mm,
cosplay and fandom is kind of going hand in hand. Like we all want to become these characters now.
mm,
But do you think that because of the way that these three episodes went, that the old characters have kind of faded into the background, and we will not see them cosplayed or recalled for cosplay as much, because there's so much more now to the universe? They have so many more series coming out. They have so many more different characters
mm.
that you can cosplay. Like I think Ahsoka, I hope I'm saying that right. I think she will become kind of a mainstay,
Yeah.
over Leia, or really a lot of the characters from the first
Mm,
trilogy from 4, 5, and 6, maybe because there aren't as many choices, and they are purposefully putting choices in now because they're like, hey, this is like a whole thing. This is a whole industry. Like,
Yeah.
let's put some diverse characters in here. Let's like make more female characters. Let's make more female leads. Let's get a ton of choices. But that because of all of that, that the old like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Lando and Han are kind of fading away in cosplay.
Mm. Well, look, at the end of the day, I don't think that cosplay is what it is today without Star Wars. I've said this before. I'll say it again. We all have seen the crowds lining up in the 70s and 80s for the Star Wars movies dressed up. And yes, of course, cosplay was always around, but it's really become a public accepted thing since Star Wars. And I think that yes, of course, there's less in episodes 4, 5, and 6 to cosplay, but I think with more, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying before about the different versions of Superman. Like, you can open up, that variety so that more people are included. Like, if I'm talking Superman, not everybody wants to cosplay Christopher Reeve. Not everybody wants to cosplay Leia. Some people want to cosplay more, and now with all these extra options, I think you now open up the world. Well, I don't know if it's that dramatic, but you open up cosplay to more people who might not have gotten into it. Different. I mean, maybe there's somebody out there cosplaying today, Ahsoka, who would have never cosplayed before, and now all of a sudden they have this awesome character that they saw in Clone Wars or the Jedi episode of Mandalorian. They're like, I want to cosplay her. And I think because of Star Wars, the way that it is, we also get. I mean, you can gender bend any one of these characters, and it works. And I mean, any gender bend cosplay works, really. But you just have so much variety, and I think that that's a good thing. And I don't necessarily think that it'll mean that the older characters, the originals, the OGs will get lost, because there will still be people that appreciate those characters. I mean, these movies will live on forever. 1977, A New Hope comes out. It's now 2021. We're almost 50 years later, and
Wow.
we still talk about these movies as if they came out last year.
While I was watching the last episode of Star Wars, while I was watching episode 9, I said, it's almost the same amount of time between when The Wizard of Oz came out and when I first saw The Wizard of Oz.
Whoa.
Because it was like in the early 80s when I first saw it, and it came out in the 30s. So it was like 50 years. And so anybody
Jeez.
seeing the first Star Wars movie, it would be the equivalent of watching The Wizard of Oz for the first time as a kid.
That's it.
And that kind of blew my mind a little bit. I don't know if it's supposed to, but it's just like these perspectives.
Yeah,
I don't find that I'm that old, but it's like, yeah, Star Wars is basically the Wizard of Oz now.
well, yeah. I mean, even like if you look at, I remember when Episode 1 came out, and that was 22 years after A New Hope, and I remember thinking at that time that these Star Wars movies, whilst I loved them, they were old movies, right? They were like classic in a
Classics.
different era,
Yeah.
right? Vintage, 70s, very, very different. We're coming up on the 22 years. I mean, actually, we've already passed 22 years since The Phantom Menace came out. Like me in 1999 looking at 1977, that's a completely different world, completely different time. Now, same time has passed. It's like it doesn't feel that different. Like these movies, they're always going to be there, and they're always going to be talked about as if they've just come out. And there's always going to be. I mean, the fact that you have kids today dressing up as Darth Vader. I mean, what movie that's 50 years old do you have kids dressing up as a character from? I mean,
Or that he's still um, one of the top villains of all time.
he's still exactly. He's like the driving force of Star Wars. You think of Star Wars, I dare say, most people you ask on the street, 8 out of 10 people are going to say, "Hey, Star Wars, name me a character, Darth Vader."
Darth Vader.
Yeah, they're not going to say Snoke. They're not going to say probably not going to say Rey. Even younger kids are probably going to say Darth Vader. So I think those characters are always going to be cosplayed. But with the new movies I think comes out, endless possibilities. And the
And
books and the games, like Revan. I want to cosplay Revan.
ooh.
Anyway.
But that kind of brings me to the conclusion in episode 9, and talking about the Last Jedi, and talking about the last cosplay. And I think, as far as cosplays goes, I don't know if I've actually got my first cosplay really done at this point, but I think about how long I might do this, and I think about what my last cosplay will be, or the one that I might do the longest. And will that really, is there some grand fashion that I'm going to go out? Am I going to go out with this one or that one? And really, will it matter at all? But just like the grand finale, and knowing that they're not gonna really bring much. They're not gonna bring this back. They're not gonna. I mean, they're gonna still have stuff about Luke and about Vader, and they're gonna go back through some things, but there's not gonna be an episode 10. There's no more Star Wars movies to that extent, which is a little bit sad, because I feel like we're just getting warmed up. Um,
It's a bit like that, isn't it?
but I don't, and there's so many Bond movies, like, don't get me started on that, but like, you can make 25
You
of
say that
something.
with such
And
contempt. You're just like so many Bond
there's
movies.
so many Bond movies. You can make like almost 30 of those, and it's
Uh,
fine. But like, oh, we're gonna stop at 9 with this epic tale of space. Um, the I guess the thing about this is, and maybe it's not just the only thing, but I really didn't care for the ending. I really didn't. It felt
Forced.
insincere, forced. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Just like, I like the twist. I like that we find out a little bit about Rey, but my first question was, okay, when did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
with,
Yeah.
and with who? Or is this one of those force babies again, where it just kind of like comes out of nowhere? But where, like, like, they're like, I'm your dad, and you're like, oh really? When did you find time? You were running
Yeah,
the
exactly.
and really, like, you were like old and gross 20 years ago when this happened. Like, or one of your clones, maybe, I don't know, or maybe it was like a mini me situation where they like
Mm.
kind of like just used his DNA. I don't know. They don't really explain a whole lot about
No,
how
it's
this
just
all
kind of like
happened.
it was kind of like a fan service done in a not great way. Like the story I want to see is how that happened. Like, is it the Emperor promised the world to some minion, like basically essentially keeping it PG here, sleep with me to create this offspring and you'll have the world, and then all of a sudden he betrays her and takes her out. Like, is that a story, or is it just something that's been manufactured? Who knows? But it seems like I I'm gonna say that they didn't know whose daughter they were gonna make this. Again, this goes back to what I said in the first episode that we did. Like when Snoke said to her, or no, Kylo, somebody said to her,
Kylo
"You're
Ren.
no one. Yeah, you're no
Hmm.
one. Like, leave it there. Like, leave it there. That's like, I'm okay with that. Like, if that's the choice you want to make it. Don't
Yeah,
don't control. Like,
and
is it a
uh,
letdown? Sure, but is it kind of better than what we got? Sort of, maybe.
yeah, well, and they kind of went down the road in the second episode, where they just had the kid, and it's like, yeah, anybody can be the hero. It can
Mm,
be anybody. Anybody can be the Skywalker of the story. He
yeah,
was just this kid from this planet. He didn't know that he was royalty. He didn't know that this was this whole thing. He was just this kid, right? So
yeah,
anybody could be that. Even though, like, there is definitely a line, definitely, Vader was definitely special. He was supposed to bring balance to the Force. They kind of lost all of that. This whole
yeah.
balance to the Force thing got completely, like, thrown out, and they're like, no, we're gonna
Never
make
came
it
again.
like, let's make it more like Dragon Ball Z, and let's have all of the dark energy and all of the light energy, and then we'll just have this huge Kamehameha wave come out of all of these Jedi that are like inside of her, and
Mm,
channeling themselves through her so that she can beat the ultimate bad guy and obliterate him for once and for all. And you're like, Oh, like what? Where did that come from?
Yeah, like
When did this become a thing that all the consciousnesses are suddenly? That felt more like Dune, if you're
yeah,
familiar.
yeah.
She
Yeah.
suddenly becomes an abomination. She's like, oh yes, now I just have all of these people in my head. You're dead.
It was
And
very it was also, I don't know if you saw the Assassin's Creed movie. They did something similar in that movie too. You're not missing much. Like it's kind of a bummer that that's what happened after the awesome games, but basically that kind of happens at the end of that, where like all these assassins before him come and like motivate him to do the job or whatever. And that's kind of what I thought about when I saw that scene. I was like, oh, that's great, cool fan service. Again, we got all the voices and stuff, awesome. But like that's, eh.
yeah, yeah, I'm just like, I really wanted their, you kind of already got rid of all the main characters,
Yeah.
and then you come to this like ending, which, you need some kind of a confrontation. They're
Mm-hmm.
like, it's like, well, we gotta figure this out somehow. But then, it kind of went down the road of the fourth Ghostbusters movie a little bit, and like I feel like there's still an apology coming for some of this, but I don't think we're gonna get it.
No, I don't think we're
I think Mandalorian was probably that. It's like, well,
I'll take
there's
it.
there's more. Like just kidding. There's actually some more stuff. So and maybe like maybe what they do with Andor, that's going to be really cool, and just like all the things that they're coming out with
Mm,
uh, for Star Wars, just they, like you don't think there's going to be like a lot like what else could they possibly do, but there it's all there.
yeah,
They have so many
so
books
much.
to draw upon. Again,
Yeah,
the Thrawn trilogy is the trilogy that I wish they would have done, but now I guess all of my hopes have been dashed that they
for
won't be
now.
do they will, yeah, for now. Wait another 20 years, and they were like, you
Yeah,
know what,
exactly.
why don't we bring Ray back, like who knows what they'll do. But yeah, I mean, it's really something that I would hope in cosplay is that whatever cosplay that I decide to go out on, I just really hope that it's a good experience and it doesn't feel like, kind of that meh sort of like,
Yeah,
well, this was the last con, this is all I'm going to do, and I'm just going to hang it up, and it didn't matter. It was just an ending of things.
yeah,
I wouldn't want it to be that way. I would want it to be like, I mean, I have so many things that I want to do with cosplay, and so many team ups and so much cool stuff. I know I've mentioned Inferno, not to like plug away shamelessly on a show about Star Wars, but I have Inferno behind me, the new version of Inferno, which
nice.
has some pretty cool stuff going on in it. But there's so much storytelling that can go on inside of cosplay, and I really think that the Star Wars, like the whole overarching thing of what we've been talking about. Really, one thing that I hope to really just drive home is that cosplay is in at least in part storytelling,
Absolutely.
and that if that's what you want to do, and really like with social media, with YouTube, with all this stuff, all the content that we create, I guess for me, I want to be helpful, but I also want to be able to tell or retell some of these stories.
Mm,
It's a lot of fun, and even though there's a lot of production that goes into cosplay, period, like it's expensive, and it's not easy to pull off. And you having so much experience with acting, and with that insight into things like Star Wars, you see it, you have a completely different lens on all of this, because of your experience. Things that I don't necessarily see, when you're watching movies, or when you're seeing cosplay in action,
mm,
and just your spin on what storytelling really means, what it means for cosplay, but just what it means for you to be able to portray different characters as you have. And even on your YouTube channel, I watched your Phantom of the Opera, which was pretty awesome.
thank you.
But just the kind of just to take us out, I guess, to just give us some of your insight into the why inside of your cosplays, the storytelling, and just, am I a crazy person in saying things like this?
No, absolutely not. And I think the beautiful thing about storytelling is it means something to each and every one of us, and that doesn't necessarily ring true for everybody that we're telling the story to. Star Wars is a prime example, right? They have a story to tell, and it doesn't always hit the mark, and that's okay because we are going to tell our own story, and we have control of the story that we tell. So if we're going back to what's that last cosplay going to be? Is it going to be glorious, or is it going to go out with a whimper? The good thing is we have the control. We know exactly what we want to do. We have the power to do what we want to do, and to tell that story is up to us. And nobody is correction. Nobody should be able to tell you otherwise. And if they do, you have the opportunity and the option to not listen. So, the reason why I do what I do in terms of my cosplay is because I want to spread positivity. I want people to feel good. I want anyone to be able to look at something that I've written on Instagram or Twitter or Vero or some video that I put up on YouTube. It doesn't necessarily have to change their life, their day, their year. If it puts a smile on their face, if it makes them laugh, if it makes them think, if it allows them to see the world in a different way just for a second, then that's all that matters to me. And that's what I can control. I can control how I portray that message and how I want that message to be seen. Necessarily, does it necessarily, do I control how somebody sees it? No, of course not. But the message is there, and that's all we have to give, really. At the end of the day, you can take my money, you can take my clothes, you can take my possessions. Don't take my clothes, please. Uh, you can take it all, but the thing that you'll never be able to take from me is the message that I want to portray, and I can do that with cosplay. I can do it without. So whatever story you want to tell, whatever cosplay you want to go out on, just know that nobody has the power to take it away from you, and you can do it exactly how you want because you have control of it.
Yeah, I mean the costume is the most important thing. It's the message, and it's what it is that you do want to communicate. And we have such a great medium to do that. We can use all of this technology and all of these these moments, these teachable moments that come up, and all of these wonderful things that are available to us now that necessarily were not in the past. And who knows what the future is going to bring. There it's just it's a really interesting time to live. I'm sure that that is a cliche thing to say, but that we can celebrate things the way that we do, and that we can that we can entertain at a minimum and inspire with those things that we do share online within the community, and just with the passersby in some cases, people that just stumble upon these things that we share online, and what their take is on all of that. It's a lot to take in. And anybody seeing me in my silly robe is probably going to wonder what's going on, but the I guess it's really just the relationship that we have. You and your Doctor Who shirt. I wish
Yeah.
I don't have mine with me, but that is a completely different story. One that we might table for a little while, but certainly probably worth a bunch of episodes there too.
I'm
As far
in.
as the overexplains ran, um, just to kind of lighten the mood a little bit. But really, thank you so much for being here and taking the time to be on this epic nine episode, two episodes to bring season 3 to a close. There's only one more episode left after this, and it's really just to say congratulations. Here's video 100. We've had
Nice.
100 shows on YouTube, and it's been a crazy experience inside of cosplay. I guess I don't know if reflection is a really good term. It's a term that comes up in Star Wars. But just to take a quick second at the end of this episode before rolling us out, and just to reflect on just all of the growth that's been able to happen in 3 seasons of making these are having these interviews, having people come on the show and share their insights and all the things that they've been through, and the triumphs, the tragedies, the emotional roller coasters, the discovery, just all of the talented folks inside of the community and what they've been able to share, and all the time. And really, I always say thank you. I almost feel like I'm on an awards show sometimes that I'm saying thank you so much. But I really do appreciate it. I appreciate all of the work that you do, sir, inside and outside of cosplay, everything that you share, and that you do make a difference in people's lives, as a life coach, as a trainer, as someone who puts out as much content as you do, with breaking the barrier, and just with all the things that you do and all the things that you share. So that's really my hat's off to you, sir, for everything that you've done and accomplished, and just all of the many talents that you have. I'm not sure if I got that very well in the first episode that we had together.
That was great. No, thank you, and I'll take this time to thank you again for having me as always, and as a congratulations to the 100 episodes, because I tell you what, when I got into cosplay, I mean officially, yours was one of the first podcast channels that I found, and I have to say right back at you, there's so much. If this is the first time that you're listening to Scotty, go back and listen to everything, because there's so much information that he gives, from how to get into cosplay to how to make your cosplay successful. Even goes into business of cosplay. He goes into the ethics of cosplay, anti-bullying, and he's got so many wonderful guests. And I think that this cosplay is probably the best compilation of, it really is a sanctuary for cosplayers to go and talk about why it is that they do the things that they do. And Scotty, you've done an amazing thing here, bringing us all together and helping us, give a little bit of a shout out of our own messages. So it's a wonderful medium, and I hope that you go on for many more hundreds of episodes.
So gonna play with a little fire next season. So we'll see how it goes. But yes, thank you everybody for sticking with us. These have been some crazy episodes. At the end, to finish off your week, 2 weeks running, and really segue into the week before C2E2, which is going to be just a fantastic show. If I could get Melbourne Superman here for the show, I would like bring you in. I think you'd enjoy it. You'd like C2E2 if you haven't gone yet. I don't know if you've actually been to C2E2.
No, I'd love to get there. I'd love to get there, man.
But yeah, someday, or I will have to visit a con down in Australia. Yeah, it'd be so much fun to come down and see what's going on. I know it's a bit of a pipe dream, but yeah, really looking forward to the show. And again, thank you so much for spending all this time, Andrew. And yes, that's where we're going to end it. Friends, this has been the Heroes of Cosplay Sanctuary, ScottyB and Melbourne Superman saying